When Elizabeth, Michelle Randolph, goes to the chicken coop to gather eggs that morning at the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, she finds that a lone wolf has broken in and devoured all of the hens. Liz is bitten on the leg by the wolf, who unfortunately spots her before she can completely escape. Spade, Cooper Taylor, one of the Dutton Ranch hands who stayed behind, saves Liz just before she is devoured by the wild monster. Kara sees them on the way back to the home and swiftly pulls them inside. Kara cleans Liz's wound and sends Spade to get the doctor, assuring her niece-in-law that she wouldn't have any bad luck at all if she didn't have any. Dr. Stephen Miller, Mark Dannery, enters the room as Kara and Liz are sitting by the fire that night, amid the same snowstorm that prevented Jacob and Jack from returning home. After examining the bite, Doctor and Kara determine it's best to give Liz a rabies vaccination in case she gets bitten. But because the needle enters her stomach, which she is especially sensitive to due to her prior miscarriage at the end of season 1, Liz declines. However, with the assistance of Spade and his nurse, Laura Hammond, the doctor is adamant and makes her get the vaccination. When Kara goes to check on Liz after she storms off, Liz confesses that this winter is just too much for her. In spite of her. She says she is going home as the storm passes, even though she loves Jack. In reference to the wolves, Banner tells his friend Clyde, Brian Connowell, near the end of the show that he thinks he is a sinner who will never enter the gates of heaven. He observes that Whitfield is a man who searches for the underlying greed in people. "I've never met a man who scares me," says the man. "Not once in my life until now." It's obvious that Whitfield intends to do the same to the Duttons, leaving nothing but bone and dust in his wake as they battle very literal wolves that threaten to consume them. Despite her affection for Jack, she declares she is heading home as the storm passes. At the end of the episode, Banner tells his friend Clyde, Brian Connowell, that he believes he is a sinner and will never be allowed to enter the gates of heaven because of the wolves. He notes that Whitfield is a man who looks for people's underlying greed. The man claims, "I've never met a man who scares me. Not once in my life until now." As the Duttons fight very literal wolves that threaten to devour them, it is clear that Whitfield plans to do the same to them, leaving behind nothing but bone and dust. When Spencer explains that he needs to return home since his family is in danger and that he has lost his wife, Maceo, who is offended, says that this disrespect will not be allowed. However, the Italians seem to understand. He offers to help Spencer with his cause, knowing what it's like for a family to lose a war for their own territory, in exchange for helping him carry some whiskey. Later, Maceo sends Spencer and Luca off, offering the Dutton money for the cops who can be bought off, as long as Luca returns it if it isn't used, and a pistol for the cops who can't. They then take off in their car, embarking on the next phase of their global journey. In the midst of all, we see a fleeting sight of Julia Schlepfer's character, Alex Dutton, who is pregnant in her small and shared cabin aboard the ship that is transporting her to America. She is going through a big storm just like her new relatives in Montana, but this one is in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and there is nowhere to go. A voiceover of Alex writing to her deceased spouse while water seeps into the hull reveals that her one dream is for them to be reunited. She still has a long way to go though. Don't worry if you're wondering what happened to any of the other characters in 1923. Their tales are interspersed throughout the show. We shift back to Texas about the middle of The Rapist is Winter, where Pete Plenty Clouds, Jeremy Gauna, and Tiana Rainwater, Amina Nieves, return to camp following